All right, hello, and have a really good morning. How's it going, everyone? So today is a little bit of a different stream for the simple reason that we're, for once again, doing a programming stream. Or, well, something close to one, I guess. Because what we're really going to do is we are going to look inside a game, a classic game, and we're going to do that for the simple reason that I don't really need to have many skills in the matter of reverse engineering or whatever, because this game was made with a scripting language, which in turn means that it's basically all plain text. There's nothing to disassemble from machine language back into something readable. It's just all readable text the way they shipped it originally. And this game is the game Myst, a classic first-person puzzle adventure from 1993 is, I think, when I looked it up last time. So a little bit of history. Myst was made using a program called HyperCard, and HyperCard has a scripting language called HyperTalk. So, how would you find out about that? Well, you might have heard about it at the time, and if you haven't, then you might be a curious person. So what you see here on screen is an emulator of a classic Mac OS computer. So we're running Mac OS 9 in emulation here, 904 to be precise. I've emulated 256 megabyte, which would have... I'm not even sure if any Mac ever shipped able to have 256 megabytes. And yes, that's not a typo. It's really megabyte. It's not gigabyte. We're emulating a PowerPC, so a RISC-based old Mac. But definitely, even if there were Macs with 256 megabytes at the time, it would have made you quite poor to buy one. What we also have is I've installed a little bit of software that many people would have had. For one, I've installed CodeWarrior, which we'll not need. I've installed a PDF viewer. And also I've installed some of Apple's own software, including this little program, ResEdit. And a ResEdit is kind of... It was a developer tool, so usually as a software developer, you would have used it to install, to create dialog windows in your programs and things. So I actually have a few programs here. Let's look at that. That's an example application. And it comes with a resource file, ResEdit. It's the same little Jack in a box, or Mac in a box, I guess is what you would say. And if you open that, you get something like this. It's a tiny little window, and it looks like it's a whole bunch of files inside our file. And that's basically the main unique thing about classic Mac OS at the time. They actually had two parts of a file. So every file could contain just the regular file contents. So for a text file, the text. And they could also contain these resources. And for example, there are your mouse arrows in there, like they actually have a little like this test application has like a white mouse arrow as well, and a mouse arrow with a spinning beach ball to indicate progress, but you can still use the mouse. You have progress cursor to tell you, well, you can't do anything while this is working. They also have the stopwatch. They have a lot of progress cursors in this example. This is an example application for learning programming, basically. And you have dialogues, which are basically, window definitions. And you see here, so it has a little preview of like the different boxes. You can see your text fields, things like that. And you can double click that to actually edit them. So this gray rectangle is for the group boxes around these checkboxes and things. So that's basically what you would normally have used ResEdit for. It also contains, a little drawing application with which you could paint your icons. Lots of stuff like that. You can put little pictures in there. Like here they made their about screen a fun little picture. And of course you can put localizable text in there. And you can put your menu bar in there with like all the menus. So this is what you did. Usually when you were a teenager like me at the time and just wanted to know how stuff worked, what you did was you grabbed the application, say Myst, and dragged it onto ResEdit. And now you see a whole bunch of icons. You see here they have a hand cursor, and that already looked a little familiar to me. And you have some color cursors that they designed. Those are mostly new. This hand cursor kind of looks like the other one, just without a shadow and in color. Okay. And so you just or you could extract sound files and icons, if I remember correctly. My Mac was so tricked out. Yes, definitely. I'm trying to see. This one doesn't have sound files. Well, just since we'll need it for comparison anyway, I think, yeah, I have HyperCard here. So let's open up HyperCard with ResEdit and compare it to Myst. You see, Myst already contains a whole bunch less, but that's basically because they pared it down to fit more images on the disk. For one. But you see a few things are similar. So you see there are these XCMD and XFCN. That stands for external command and external function. But yeah, why I wanted to open HyperCard is because HyperCard has sounds in it. So it actually had a harpsichord, and you could say sound here. Try sound. I don't think you could hear that. Let me check. I'm actually running this emulation on Windows, as you see. Yeah, of course, I've set the wrong speakers, so let's see if we now hear something. Where are my sounds? Here. That actually worked, although it was twice since I turned on my speakers. Okay, so that, for example, then we can... The boing. The sounds sound a little off because HyperCard did something special, so like this boing is a lot higher pitched. But since you could play with melodies with HyperCard, you could kind of use it there. And could say, play something at pitch C and it would pitch the sound down or up. So basically it kind of normalized its sounds. I don't really know. All HyperCard sounds basically sound wrong when played in ResEdit. It has been like that since I can remember. And it has dial tones. They're very short. They play they're also like, they use some features that most programs never used in sounds. For example, you could define sounds so they had like a start, like an onset, a actual looped portion that gets used as long, as the sound is playing, and then what do you call it, end, for lack of a better word. So almost like MIDI sounds, like there was a lot of stuff in there already. And so this one is very short, but actually when you play it, it goes doo like a flute and not just doo. Anyway, so yeah, that's the kind of stuff you can find there. You can even just find big plain text in there. But anyway, so what you did as a kid, probably as a user of HyperCard, was at some point you pointed ResEdit at it and saw, okay, those are the menus that HyperCard has. It has this font, so like you could actually put text files, text fonts into here, and you see, oh, okay, that's not really a font. The A is a lock icon, the B is a hand icon, the C is a button icon. So they put some small icons in here instead of bitmap text. All right. And I mean, you may see some of these icons later, like this one. This is not the actual cursor. And it has a few typical dialog windows. You see a croak, error, confirm, edit report record, icon editor, card size, font size, like some of those names, answer folder 7, preview, save a copy, new stack. So you'll kind of, it has some named resources, so mini files, so to say, in there. And it has a window border, window definition function in there, windowed, movable modal, borderless. So you see something like this. So let's look at Myst. Myst has windowed and movable modal as well. Interestingly, it doesn't have borderless, which confuses me to no end, because I thought they actually used borderless. But maybe they modified something, I don't know. Then you see this WTLK, string symbols, cells, arcs. That's actually a custom resource. I think that was, that's used for the programming language. So if you look at do, else, end, exit, function, so there are a lot of weird things that already read like they're HyperCard related, because it has that here as well. So you can kind of guess, okay, yeah, that's definitely, they took HyperCard and deleted some stuff out. And maybe it's an older version. Like you see here, it has XCMD and it has lowercase xcmd. And lowercase xcmd is basically the version for PowerPC computers, and uppercase xcmd is the version for 68,000 computers. So back then, Apple was just about to switch. Like when Myst came out, Apple was just about to switch from the old 68,000 computers. CPUs like the Atari ST and the Amiga also used them at the time to RISC PowerPC CPUs. So I think we can close that, and we can see Myst is definitely a copy of HyperCard in some way. It contains a lot of things that you might know from there. It also contains the same little font as you see as HyperCard. That's probably a good giveaway. All these little icons that it oddly stored in a font are in there as well. But really they exchange. Oh, this picture is actually one that you see in HyperCard as well. And if you look at our dialogues, you see croak, error, all in there. None of the 7 dialogues that said something with 7, like answer file 7, were in there. The 7 in there was because at the time macOS 7, or System 7 as it was just called at the time, had just been released, or was still fairly new. And so software needed to run on System 6 and System 7, and so sometimes they had the new stack window, and they had the new stack window for System 7, which was slightly different to be used with System 7 specific API or something like that. So yeah, we now definitely know, yes, as everyone says, Myst was apparently made with HyperCard. First thing to confirm. So what else do we want to do? Well, so I told you about external command and external function, which were code resources, which means they were little bits of native code that someone wrote with a real C or Pascal compiler, like the Code Warrior I pointed at earlier that I have also installed. Good morning, Tony. And so these code resources were how you could extend HyperCard. So HyperCard came with a few of them, and if you look in here, you see 4 pictures. This one with the 1-digit number, that's basically one that came with HyperCard. Movie is also one that came with HyperCard. I think that is usually number 7. But they changed it, and so that's why they changed its number, so they could more easily swap it out, I guess. And then these are all, like, it's a slight change. You'll see later why. And then they added a whole bunch of third-party extensions. The most important one of these is probably HyperTint, which we will get into later. Also the whole decurse and move cursor. HyperCard only had black and white mouse pointers. Myst obviously has colored ones, so of course they needed an extension to show those. But yeah, so these native code plugins are there. We can actually open these and see them in disassembly if we wanted to. This is, by the way, for those of you who used classic macOS and ResEdit, you might be used to this looking more like this. Just a hexadecimal display with like plain text in one column, hexadecimal in the other, and the offsets here. But the fun thing is this code editor actually comes from Apple. You can see it here. You actually get ResEdit Code Viewer Copyright Apple Computer when you click on that mouse, on that Apple logo. So it's not morning, sillies. Hi, your mama. How's it going? It is morning where I am, and if you want to eat pancakes, it can be morning for you, and you, and you, and it can even be morning for this guy. I am different. All right. So this editor actually came with ResEdit and was an optional installation. No one is in mourning. Okay. Well, The turret. The turret is in mourning because in the process of playing Portal, I had to topple over some of his friends. Are you really there? I really need to dust that one off more often. It just sits in his box in the shelf. Well, not box, like it's a square shelf spot. All right. So yeah, this code editor, if you look here, you see when you got ResEdit, it actually came with a ResEdit extensions folder. And that was a KCS numeric editor. That's a like 4 icons that were used for keyboard layouts. And there is a code editor, and that's the one you're seeing here. And basically to install that, you just opened this file, copied these resources, and pasted them into ResEdit. Or, if you were a little more careful, you could also put it in ResEdit's preferences files. And that's what I did, because then that means to get rid of any bad editor that you've installed, you just delete the preferences file. Because ResEdit just opened the preference file and all the resources inside it would be used as well. And what I could actually do, let's do that for a moment, to be able to, you see, it still remembers I was there. So, wait, where is it? ResEdit preferences. So you see there is a bunch of stuff from the code editor in there. There are also these TMPL resources that kind of describe the format of a resource. You remember I was there? When was I where? Not sure your mama what you mean right now. And there are these, so these template TMPL resources where you could describe the format of a resource. So for example, you see here, it says like the first is a decimal word, so that's a 2-byte integer. Decimal byte is a 1-byte integer. Rect is a rectangle, which I think means this template will not work in ResEdit, because as far as I remember, oh no, Rect actually was in ResEdit as well. There was a second resource editor called Resourcerer. You said it remembered you were there. Oh, okay, yeah, the open dialogue. Right, okay, gotcha now. And you remember I was there. Okay, thank you. It's nice to be remembered. Anyway, and this is a decimal long, so just a 4-byte integer, and you can give them a title. And so using these 4-letter types, you could kind of describe the format of a resource, and then if you create a new resource, so I can do that here, ILRP was I think what this was called, whatever that means, I don't even know what type that is. It will actually open it and show it in like as a list of labels and text fields. So it's not super pretty, but it was nicer as seeing it only in this hex view. Ah, okay, here it says code editor preferences. I guess that's ILRP. So auto load traps as buttons, search for all references, so you can actually directly view and edit the preferences here. Too bad it was commercial, so I could never afford Resourcerer. Yeah, Tony, at the time I remember as well, it was, I used the demo they had a little bit, but yeah, and I actually have the manual back there, on the shelf. The Resourcerer 1.0 manual. Oh, come on, I'll be right back. If we're gonna yap on about Myst and old software, somehow the green screen is moving today. Of course the lighting. Now. Resourcer, a resource editor for Macintosh computers, version 1.0 by Mathematics. And that these people liked their mathematics, you can tell from the fact that that they had a formula on their website to calculate the price for each version. So they kind of went like major version number times minor version number, some formula, and if you calculated that, you could tell what this version would cost. And I think the last version of Resourcer that shipped was $256. Yeah. And I mean, it's a nice little manual. Let's see if I can... Yes, there is a nice little screenshot of how the Resourcer windows looked. I don't know if you can actually see any of... Wait. Here, this will probably be a little better to see for you. Like, basically, they all had this little gray border, and they had the very characteristic thing. I can't point at it right now, but on the other side over there, you see that there is the scroll bar, and below the scroll bar is that little box with the two squares, and that's an old System 7 style resize box that usually was in the window corner. But Resourcer had this special thing where the resize box was always on each list in the window, which is actually a pretty clever feature, because it means if you had two lists in the window, you could tell Resourcer which way, like which of them you wanted to resize when resizing the window. So it didn't just make the bottommost larger and then you had to drag down a separator or anything like that. Anyway, so you see we get... Oh no, right, I've already done this. I just tricked myself. So anyway, and in the res edit preferences there are also these... So there are these templates with which you can describe the format of a resource. And there are R-maps. And R-maps, you see here, there is one for XCMD. And if you look in that, it says map to code. So that means whatever editor is set for code resources should be used for XCMD resources as well. And that's why, despite XCMDs being special for HyperCard, I can open it and it gets shown disassembled like any other source code. So that's just a resedit feature. Anyway, but yeah, most of you will probably have this resedit extensions folder and will have the code editor. You just need to install it by copying it into the preferences file. You're welcome. if you have an old Macintosh or an install. Not an install, an emulator. Anyway, so now we know that Myst is basically HyperCard, and there is a second puzzle piece. And so we know it contains a lot of resources, among others, hypertint. And so we know that we can look at all that stuff. So now one more thing about Mac applications. You can say get info for Myst. This kind of shows you the low-level file attributes. So you see like created, modified, date and time. The size, you see there is, what is it, 793 kilobytes in the resource fork and 43 kilobytes in the data fork. Okay, that sounds interesting. And it has these type and creator. And so these were kind of like the old Macs that cost a lot of doll hairs. Yeah. $256. Remember, like imagine having to pick them all off your doll to pay. No. Alright, and so basically the type is kind of like a file extension today. So macOS didn't put any importance on like .rsrc. Like here, this thing that I showed you earlier, project settings.h, test soup application cpp, test soup application.h. Those extensions don't tell macOS anything. Those are all just plain text files, because if you edit them with ResEdit, or I actually have a dedicated application here called File Typer. So if I draw project settings.h onto File Typer, you see that its file type is TEXT. Its creator is CWIE, which is Code Warrior. So yeah. So you can see that that Myst had the type APPL, which is an application. So on modern macOS, that would be .app, app. And on Windows, that would be roughly equivalent to .exe, so an executable .exe. But macOS also had this creator type, which is basically an owner. So an application has a certain creator, which in this case is Myst. Luckily, that was 4 letters long, so it could be used for this 4-letter code. And then you could go and say, okay, if I have files, then so look here, Myst files. You see they have a little icon with this little book in it, but it's a document. So if I where did my ResEdit go? I think I closed. Oh no, wait, I have ResEdit down here. So let's just drag it here. So we have that open. So we can say get info for the channelwood age, and you see it also says Myst. And so when you double-clicked channelwood age, it would know to start Myst, because Myst is the applications on this computer with the creator code Myst. So that is how classic macOS knew what file to open. Do you remember the df editor extension for ResEdit that allows showing data fork in ResEdit? I didn't remember that was a thing. I know Resourcerer did that. Resourcerer showed the data fork as an extra, as its own entry, as its own pseudo resource. But I actually don't remember that existed. You know what? Let's quickly see if I can do something, because that would be really helpful for the rest here. Edit. Wait. Let's see if maybe that's available online. Let's see. I don't think it is available anywhere. Yeah. Oh, but I can do the second best thing. Yeah, I should have thought about that and prepared it. But we might be able to do a quick install, because I do have some. Yeah, here it is. So here's the thing. ResEdit only shows resources, but it would be useful to also see data forks. Wrong button. Here. Yeah, Gigabyte is the right folder. Alright, so now we have HexEdit here, which is a editor that will show us at least a hex editor view for a file. So I have created a hypercard stack ages ago here. It's called color test. So let's open that in HexEdit, and you see it has STAK you can read in here. It has some scripts that look like on open card, send color me to this card, pass open card, so like end close stack, end open stack, and yeah, end open card here, things like that. There's a block named list, and so you see like they've kind of simulated their own version of a resource file in a little bit. That's something I know because I'm familiar with it. But like if you've ever looked at a hypercard stack, you will see that all the scripts are in plain text in this file. They're not compiled in any way or so. And you see a lot of BKGD that reads like background, which is a concept in HyperCard. There is CARD card and STAK, which is stack. So you can recognize some things. And at the end there is tail, and then it says, that's in Swedish. If you opened a stack with simple text, so the text editor, it would actually here show a Swedish A. So nu är det slut, I think is what it's called. This is the end. I think it's from a TV show. But anyway, you wish you could remember where you got it. It's many years since you used that extension. Yeah, it's nice. Oh, your mama is enjoying the gameplay. I'm sorry to say, there will probably not be much gameplay today. Anyway, so this is how a normal stack looks. And now if we go in this Myst folder, and you see here, if you've played Myst, you know that there is Myst Island, And from there you can go to different places which are referred to in-game as ages. And so there is the Selenitic age, the Stone Ship age, the Mechanical age, the Dunny age, and the Channelwood age. And so let's just open the Stone Ship age with ResEdit. And you see, again, it starts with STAK, like stack. It has here on open stack, blah blah blah. So you can see all the code here already. So it has all the same elements. BKGD, it's just a good chunk larger. And in the end, it has the tail that says Nu är det slut. So you can actually see that this is just a hypercard stack. And one thing that hypercard let you do is you could open a stack and you could say save a copy, and you could say instead of saving it as a stack, you could save it as its own self-contained application. And if you do that, you get the choice here to say which creator code it should use and which type code it should use for its documents. So that's, you know, as a HyperCard user, you just knew that. It actually let you configure your own application. And then you see it kind of has this HyperCard icon with the hand, like most, well, like some programs at the time apparently had, because I'm looking here and Myst doesn't have it. Oh no, HexEdit has it actually. See, HexEdit has a hand here as well. Anyway, and then you can open this color test and it looks basically the same, just that you see that there are reduced menus, so you don't have fancy fancy styles and everything. All right, so we know now that we can make and if you look at this with ResEdit, you see it has all these resources we've seen in HyperCard. It has picture ID 4, for instance. It has the movie ID 7. It has the WTLK resource we saw. It has the WDEF. So it has all these resources that we saw. It has the hand cursor. So where is our stack? Well, our stack is still in the data fork. Oh, I shot myself in the foot a little bit. So here's the thing. In 68,000 programs, all your code was kept in code resources. In PowerPC source code, your code was kept in the data fork. But if you go to the end of the file, you see tail, nu är det slut. So, and you see scripts and on mouse up, answer, blah, 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 you know? Like you see my script, you see BKGD on open card, you know, you see all these stack. So you can tell what HyperCard actually does when it saves such a standalone is it appends your stack to the end of the source code of HyperCard. or in the case of a 68,000 only application, which remember Myst actually is because it didn't have the lowercase xcmd, what it does actually, it just sticks it in the data fork. So let me just see. Yeah, I can do that. That will make it a little faster in the future. So if I drag Myst onto hexedit, you will actually see it just starts with stack and ends with nu er dit slut, Myst the application. So now we know that we can actually so we know this is just a hypercard stack saved as a standalone. Tony, interesting. I didn't know you could save stacks as applications. Which hypercard versions support that? I haven't seen that in any hypercard you've tried. 1.0, 2.0, and 2.2. I think I'm not 100% sure. It's either in 2.2 or 2.3. No, it must be in 2.1. Because that's what Myst uses. So yeah, it's in 2.1. It depends on certain files being present. So if you look here, you see it has stack translators. And if you open that, you see this one, stack to app. And so that came with HyperCard. That's not a third-party feature. But basically they had plugins where you could say, do something with a stack. And so if you maybe didn't install the stack translators when you installed HyperCard at the start, or, you know, like just took your old floppy and the first one was just HyperCard itself on the home stack, which is kind of the minimal combination that you need, then it could be that you're missing them. And also there were a few features added, like, let's get rid of that again. But what you can also do if you save a copy is you can say custom file type. And if you click that, then you see you can here, instead of STAK, which is the type for a file, I could give it a different type, say MYAG. And so that's basically what they did for Myst, is they saved a Myst standalone. And if you see this, there is a space at the start of Myst here. Why is that? Because this age is called Myst. And so if in your code you wanted to refer to go to stack Myst to go to this age, you couldn't have the home stack, this standalone, be named Myst as well. So that's why they just snuck a space in there. That explains it. You don't think you have the stack translator installed. Yeah, that's possible. I think it's you can untick it in the installer or something. And also, of course, depending on the state of your floppies. I remember, like, I have lots of floppies where I just put a second copy of HyperCard on it or something. There's a bug in the stack. What? Are you talking about, where is it? Come on. We saw it earlier. Yeah, this bug. Or a different one. Anyway, so we know now that Myst is actually 1, a hypercard stack. 2, this Space Myst stack is a hypercard stack saved as a standalone, whereas all the different ages are apparently separate stacks that are just saved with a custom file type and creator code, so they're associated with Myst. And that's also how they can get their own icons. Also, do I have a save game? I had a save game somewhere. Maybe here. Yeah, okay. I've already edited this, but so you can just believe me that save games are actually also just MYAG Myst files, so they're also just a save game. It's funny how some old debuggers used a can of bug spray as the debugger application icon. Yeah. So anyway, so that in turn means I could go through and change this one from an application into a stack. So STAK, which is what HyperCard usually uses, and the creator to wild, which is also what HyperCard uses. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to save that, but that's what I could do with this here. I mean, I can't do it here because this is on a CD, so I can't write to the CD. At least I hope I can't write to the CD. Because this is, after all, an emulator. It might just go, oh, it's a hard disk. Similarly, I can make all the ages into stacks. And if you look in Myst graphics, you will actually find there are a lot of files that end in move or mov. And if you look at those with resedit, you can actually see that they have a move resource in it. Move MVHD. What is it? Track. So it was very common to use these almost readable 4-character codes back then for, you know, indicating different starts of things. But so someone who is a little familiar with classic macOS, if you've ever opened a QuickTime movie, for example here, this Making Myst movie that actually comes with it, you'll see that it has a move resource. And that's where the actual movie is. If you look at a QuickTime movie or an MPEG-4 movie today, which is, you know, .mp4, .m4v, or .mov, they're basically the contents of this resource written into a file's data fork these days. So that's how old that file format is. Fun thing, if you change the type creator in resedit, Finder won't recognize and change and show new icon unless you also untick the initialize checkbox and close and reopen the window containing the modified file. Finder uses that flag to keep track which files have been added to the desktop database. Yes, exactly. So what we're talking about is here get info. So there are different attributes, and one of them is inited. and that means to the Finder, to this File Explorer application on the Mac, it means, hey, you've already seen this. So it actually modified each file to remember whether it had entered its icons into its database, so it could show the right icons for the right kind of files. That's also what this has BNDL is for. That basically indicates, okay, this file, which is a little weird that it's set on the Making Myst movie. I think that's a mistake. Maybe some bit got flipped in the decades, I don't know. But so this means this file defines icons for other files, so you need to scan it, otherwise it could just skip it. Of course, you can make a file invisible with that. Alias is like a link or symbolic link, so not like an internet link, but like on your hard disk. A file that doesn't actually contain anything, but just points to another file and says, that file over there, if I'm opened, actually open that other file. Things like that is attributes you can set here. Use custom icon is also interesting, but I think we should stick to Myst right now, so I'm not going to go too much into that. Well, this movie also has a preview image, which is very uninteresting, apparently. And it has this PNOT, which I think is also something that you see in modern QuickTime movies, I think, but I might be wrong. Anyway, so we can recognize, okay, these files contain move resources, like a QuickTime movie. But if we do get info, it has the creator code Myst and the type MY, but then not AG like age, but rather QT like QuickTime. So, okay, they just define their own type for QuickTime movies. And so that actually gives us a pretty good roadmap on how we can start editing. So here's the thing. A HyperCard standalone is not actually built with a full copy of HyperCard in it, but rather it's built from the HyperCard player, which was a version of HyperCard that didn't come with all the example stacks, but also contained a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of restrictions. One of the restrictions was that you couldn't permanently change tools. So, quick intro for those who've never used HyperCard. This is how HyperCard comes up when you start it the first time, basically. And it has a little tools menu, which is a little palette of things that you can use. And then you can switch to, for example, the button tool and move around. Okay, undo doesn't undo. Too bad. Anyway, you can edit like buttons, or you can edit fields, or you can use drawing tools to paint everywhere. So all that stuff is there. And so the thing is, usually as a user, you use this hand tool, and you see all these icons are in that font that I showed you earlier. And so HyperCard Player is basically a copy of HyperCard that needs to be able to do most of the things HyperCard does, but it always switches your tool back to the hand tool, and it does not contain a script editor. So if you look at this button, the official way would be click it once and then say button info. And then you see all the properties of the button. You can make it, like have a different border. And you can edit its script. And its script is just like a little text editor that here sets cursor to watch for the slower machine and help. So these are -- means these are commentaries in HyperTalk. So HyperCard scripts are actually fairly easy to read. You can just say on mouse up, end mouse up, and so mouse up is, mouse down is you move the cursor over an object and hold down the mouse button. Mouse up is releasing the mouse button again after it has been down. So that's usually when most buttons trigger. That's actually a usability feature that whoops, misclick. Let's make a new button and make it auto highlight. So if you go to a button and hold the mouse button on it, don't release it yet, and then move out of it, it undoes the highlight. And so that's basically a kind of undo. If you click and as you have started clicking, you suddenly realize, wait, this is the wrong button. You can pull out again and release the button and nothing happens. Maybe we should make this button, make it happen, make something happen. Let's say play a sound. All right. So now if I click it and release inside,
How are you today?
It plays a sound.
How are you today?
But if I move out and release, nothing happens. So that's actually what why did I talk about this? Yeah, this is why it's called on mouse up. And why we don't just trigger buttons on mouse down. Like I can always just move the mouse out again and nothing happens. All right. So that's basically how HyperCard looks, and the HyperCard player is kind of reduced in a way that it has all these tools, but generally jumps back to the browse tool and doesn't let you edit stuff as easily and doesn't have a script editor because that, isn't needed in most standalones. And if you want to, they don't want you selling a full copy of HyperCard by just saving to a standalone and saying, hey, it's a standalone, now I can claim I have the right to use it, So that's kind of the idea. But the way HyperCard was built, it was really too flexible to just turn off things like you would usually do with a player application. Like you can't just say you cannot edit anything anymore, because basically every time you do something in HyperCard, it saves it to disk immediately. And it would just be gone. That's not quite true. You can run HyperCard stacks from a CD and they will just keep stuff in RAM. But, it's just different. Anyway, so we have these Myst files that are stacks that are ages. We have these Myst graphics, that some of which are QuickTime movies, which are custom file type and creator. So just that you can double click them to open. And we have these files. And what are these? And if you look at them, they're actually also HyperCard stacks, AG like age. They don't contain anything if you, but what they do is they have pictures in them. And so these are additional image resources that were just separated out by the makers of Myst. Apparently. But they also used stacks for those for some reason. And we will see. We can kind of make sense of this if we know features HyperCard had.